Great. All right. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross Project Council meeting. Today is October 3rd, 2023. And we will kind of get into things. Any announcements?
Well, I have one. Yeah. So yesterday I launched a new proposal. I know it's not in the schedule to discuss today, but this is something I have been working already with a couple of folks in the CPC and got some validation from the marketing people at the OpenJS Foundation. I'm very excited about this. It's basically creating a new effort from the foundation and all the member projects. Yeah, it will require work and discussion. Is it in the pull request of the GitHub repo? So let's take a look.
What is it exactly?
So it's a proposal to create an annual ecosystem report. It involves two different things. The first one is a poll for end users to capture their insight and get more, more knowledge from our community and our users. And then it will be presented, all the data that we're going to collect is going to be presented in the final report with some extra content from all the projects and some feedback from the foundation. So.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Thank you, Adrian. Anything else? There is a package interoperability collab space meeting happening today in about 2 hours, a little shy of 2 hours, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I did see that it's on the calendar again. We're having some calendar issues with it, but it's back. So check the public calendar, calendar.openjsf.org if you want to attend that. And so with that, who deleted the event from the calendar then?
Impossible to know, but I suspect someone thought it was their personal. There aren't that many people with access, so I have a list of suspects, but it's pretty easy to forget and to think it's your editing your personal calendar.
Could be me, maybe. I'm not really sure.
It's possible somebody.
Because I scheduled some out of the office event in my calendar, and that automatically delete events where I'm invited to, I guess. So I'm sorry.
No problem. I don't think it was you, but I appreciate the thoughts. Yeah.
Wasn't me.
Well, I have no announcements, but I just, I'll probably do a trip report at some point for the team about my travels. I was in London a week, went to there was a JS Conf meetup and an API event. Of course, we had OpenJS World in Spain and in China. So thank you everyone who presented. I learned so much from everybody. We actually had a booth in China where we had folks actually help me staff the booth from the community in our projects, which is pretty awesome. So people could have lunch breaks and go to meetings. So it does take a village. So yeah, a lot of excitement. It's so fun when people go, I love this project, and they grab stickers. And so it makes you feel really good. So just want to share that, and I'll share more details as well.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with all that, I will get started on the agenda here. The first item is ask for additional travel budgets. Michael Dawson created this a few days ago. I think the thinking was that we needed to do this, and we weren't sure if anyone had done it, and thought, well, let's open an issue. I'm not sure what folks on staff and from the board are thinking about what we need to do here. So feel free to chime in.
Yeah, we'll take it to the next board meeting, but we are spent and overspent in every category, so it would be pulling from reserves. So we will take the request to the next board meeting. I guess if there's anybody who had any more detail on what outstanding asks may be in the pipeline, that may help the board make a decision.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know,
Yeah.
we should probably make a list of events that we are expecting to support in some capacity, whether it's standards related stuff or what have you. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I just put in chat. If we have a number of a dollar amount, I think that would be helpful for an actual ask. Because that's easier to say yes or no to rather than can we have some more.
I also think, yeah, we probably also need to have the process and policies put in place on who is approved before we allocate more funds. It's been sort of a first come, first serve, so maybe not the most predictable or fair approach for people who come in late, where funds are run out. So if we can have more work on that and document some things, that would be great.
Yeah, this seems really, I mean, we have a few things that need to get figured out ASAP. You know, code of conduct is again kind of lingering and languishing. So we need to work on that. But I feel like this one in particular, maybe we should take the next working session. See what's open pull requests we have, where the budget's at, what other events we expect we'll need to support. And then, you know, be able to have something for the board for their next meeting. Cool. Should we
Just on this topic briefly, we should split out the work of doing the policy with the work of finding the information about how much travel requests are still pending, because there are two very different things with different people involved. So we should do that. And when's the board meeting by what point we should have this information?
Third Friday. Just to be clear, we don't have any other official OpenJS events. I see Darcy said that there's kind of an unconf, but and just from our last standards working group meeting, I don't believe there's any other in-person standards meetings. So, but unless, I mean, again, we could be missing something.
No, yeah, I was making that comment. I was making that comment specifically because I know a lot of the Node.js collaborators are getting together at NodeConf. So I was just guessing that maybe the Mateo's like comments are around that. Yeah.
Right. Oh, and Ben pointed out, yeah, our next meeting is a face-to-face meeting at the Linux Foundation Member Summit in California this month. So it's falling on a Monday.
Okay.
So is that before our next call or is that after our next call? The 23rd.
20 days. So we'll have another
After
meeting, yeah. But we'll also have at least one working session in there too. I would suggest we spend a few minutes at the beginning of the next working session to just look at what's outstanding and what the, you know, what the upcoming events might be. Just kind of quickly spend 15 minutes making sure we think we have an idea of what that should look like. And then we can spend the remaining 45 minutes working on the form and everything, which I think, you know, I assume, yeah, there's a travel fund issue here that we can talk more about that there, I guess. Or actually, let's just talk about it now. I'm going to move it up in the agenda. For folks who don't know, Ben put together a Google doc, I think. I want to see if it's in. So I'm moving on to issue 1147. This is revamping the travel fund. I'm scrolling to the bottom because I'm not sure if that was shared widely, Ben, or what we want to do.
The form?
Yeah.
I'm just looking for the GitHub issue right now. I'm curious. Just give me one sec.
Yeah, 1147 is just pasted it in the chat. And then I know I have that open. So let me give me one sec here. Is this it? Nope, that's SBOM stuff. Here we go. So this is the doc in the chat that Ben was working on.
Yeah, we also discussed in depth in the last working session. We went through this. So like I guess I'm ready to go. But I'm unsure what a thumbs up looks like and who gives that to create the form.
I think if you feel like you have heard questions and comments and feel like that's all adequately addressed, within reason, then I think we should just move forward.
Okay.
Toby, you have your hand up?
Yeah, a quick thing. I don't know if we've been able to figure this out, but there were concerns around gathering data that was related to DI status or DI related status. And at the same time, a lot of this fund is, part of the purpose of this fund is to support folks that are from underrepresented minorities. And so I don't really know how we want to square this. And I find that a little, I don't know what the right word is, but like it's a little.
Yeah. So
something
Toby,
we need to figure out.
Toby, yeah, we discussed this at length in the working session. I'll provide the same background here.
Okay,
again.
cool. I did not know I had missed a working session on this topic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's relevant. I did ask our legal counsel about this, and they were pretty blunt in advising that we do not collect this information. And the reason for that is specifically the legal situation in the United States right now. I will read this because I think it's valid. They spoke with one of their litigation attorneys. They said giving preference on the basis of underrepresentation could be dangerous, especially in the current environment, and especially after the SCOTUS decision severely limiting affirmative action in the academic admissions context. Although that decision is not controlling here, I worry that, for instance, a white male applicant who is denied access to the funding on account of his sex and or race could make a claim of discrimination. Already, some private businesses, such as big law firms in New York, have curtailed scholarship-type programs that were expressly established to support underrepresented groups. Not sure whether I'm showing my own conservative that is risk-averse bias, but I'd recommend against it. It's perhaps low risk, but not no risk.
That's kind of chilling.
Yeah,
not
it
the
doesn't
legal
mean
aspect. It
doesn't mean we agree with it, right?
No,
but that's the situation.
Not the legal aspect, the underlying aspect.
Yeah.
But again, this is taking information for a request. We haven't proactively decided how we're going to spend the money. Because if you even look at our standards lab space representatives, if we funded all of those people to attend all of their in-person events, that would be, we couldn't afford it. So I think that this group will have to make some decisions on how the fund is used, how it's prioritized, essentially.
Yeah, I feel like we should move forward conservatively and then, see what sort of changes we can make, ways we can improve.
Yeah, also, are we seeing these legal issues affect any technology? Like I am involved in a lot of different funds and orgs for underrepresented folks, and I haven't seen any of them changing their rules or method of outreach. So I wonder if this is a little premature.
Yeah, I agree. We've had the same, we've seen the same as well. And it is sort of an honor system, whether you say you can't afford it or you're from an underrepresented community, it is kind of an opt-in, but that kind of information is collected. It's not public. We do have a privacy policy that's linked in our footer. And we have a data sharing privacy policy with the Linux Foundation as well. So it's pretty well locked down.
So, we can accept this information if we accept the risk, right? So I think we need to make a decision of if we want to collect the information and accept the risk or not, right? So that's where we are.
Is the risk, so how detailed of information are we looking at, right? Like if it's
Good
a
question.
yes, no, like it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, the way we phrased this question was like, do you self-identify as a protected class or any of those things? And it was just a yes or no.
Just to be clear, I made that question up in like 28 seconds, so there was not a lot of reflection behind it. So
No, but it was
that on the record.
Yes,
right?
I also reviewed that question and thought about it, and I think the wording was correct, right? It is, do you self-identify as, and then we listed the things, and then it was a yes or no. I think that was the appropriate way to ask that question, to be as one, asking them if they self-identify, right? We're not saying are you, and the second was not asking for the specifics, right? Which was making it a yes or no. So we can totally have it. I just want to be sure that folks are okay with the risk. That's all.
If we have it, should it say clearly whether it's used to evaluate their application?
Well, we already have in our community fund that it would be used for diversity scholarships. So, I mean, that's a pretty, straightforward kind of program.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't collect information that we're not using to, right?
That too, yeah.
Yes, Toby.
Not necessarily. I mean, I disagree about, like, we can use it to gather information about things that we care about, regardless of whether we'll use it to make a decision about it or not. At this point, maybe like next year we can make different decisions about it. So I don't think that's absolutely necessary. The reason I raised my hand, though, wasn't for this. The reason I raised my hand was if there was a risk decision related to legal aspects that is not for the CPC to make a call here. It's the board, or or Robin as ED, if she has authority to do that. But I don't think the CPC is positioned to make that decision.
No, board with the member legal counsel providing recommendation.
Okay, well then maybe that's it. Maybe you all figure it out. Let us know what you want to do.
We could make a rec, though. I mean, as the CPC, we should make a recommendation as what we think should be done and why, and what we're trying to do with this. But like, the decision is not ours.
And also it's not a complex decision, because like if you register for OpenJS World or a Linux Foundation event, it will ask you already, so it shouldn't be very complex decision. So I would say, yes, collect it. It's part of the transparency reports that the LF does. You're right, it's a good way to track. So yeah.
Yeah, I still wonder if
I love that.
Yeah, if we should be clear about whether it affects the decision, because then, if it's a data point for us to see what sort of stats we're getting in terms of who we're helping, that's one thing. But, like Ben had read the comment, if it's used to make a determination, then we, expose ourselves.
Now, and we sort of do this already. We have diversity goals for speakers that we pretty much abide to when, the program committee decides who speaks. So we have policies. We're not going to have an all male panel. So again, it's not an unusual or high risk kind of approach to take, in my opinion.
Okay, so our recommendation to the board then is that we should have a checkbox whether folks self-identify as an underrepresented group. But
yeah, it doesn't sound like we're changing anything. I think we already have that, correct?
We don't. So we don't. No.
That's what we don't as part of the application process for the travel fund.
No, it's been this very first come, first serve. Someone opens a PR and people approve. So it's no, there's no like, oh, we're only going to fund speakers. We're only going to fund diverse attendees. We don't have those policies in place. So in a way, again, it's been sort of I hate to use the word free for all, but it's kind of that.
Yeah. And just real quickly, Toby, it's been this way because we never use the whole fund,
Exactly.
So it's just like, sure, let's open it up. We have this money to use. Great. But now it's like, oh, okay, we don't have enough money this year, so we need to start to figure this stuff out. Toby?
Yeah, it's not part of the process, but the fund was allocated by the board to the CPC around 3 different aspects, one of which is DEI. So there is a specific, I mean, that's what the fund is for, at least like some chunk of it, right? And so I guess that there is this kind of thing happening right now where we're both being more explicit about the process. And at the same time, there's like a changing sort of legislative environment in the US. And, that's clashing, right? And so maybe that's why we're having this conversation right now. And so
yeah. Oh, on the clashing.
Sorry, what?
You're asking for having the conversation because the clashing. No, the 3 buckets for the community fund was determined by the CPC about 3 years ago. And
it was a CPC decision? Okay.
It was a CPC, and it was travel for maintainers, maintainer support. If you're an active maintainer and need to be somewhere, we're going to support that. The second was diversity, and the third was a thank you fund for for folks who help your project and determined by the project. But again, with COVID hit, and it never really, was tested essentially or implemented fully.
Okay, so I take back. My assumption was the whole fund had been granted with those 3 buckets, and that was sort of like
No,
what the board had approved.
This is your money.
Okay.
You decide how to spend it. You, the CPC, not me, not the board. So.
Along those same lines, there's one other question that was brought up in the travel fund request form, which was Toby had added some additional fields for what we might cover. So currently, the travel fund covers hotel, airfare, and select event registration. There were a couple of additional fields added, such as visa, childcare, and other. So again, that's changed. So it's something I think that the CPC should discuss. So just to be very clear, do we expand the coverage of the travel fund to go beyond just hotel, airfare, and event registration to also include things like visa, childcare, and other miscellaneous expenses?
It makes me wonder if we would need to start to put like a cap on, each application, which I worry, would disadvantage certain people, from far away locales or whatnot. I'm not sure. I mean, it makes sense. I can appreciate that those are costs that could be incurred.
Linux Foundation events, if it's a Linux Foundation hosted or OpenJS official, we do have free childcare. So, but if it's something else, then that's not part of the event budget.
I would say I would recommend not having an other category if we can, to keep these compartmentalized. There is no mention of like food or meals in here, which I think is good. Not opening it to that, because those you definitely need to cap. But yeah, we could do it. We could do caps for visa and childcare, up to X.
Well, we're probably going to cap we're going to make decisions about everything anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Ben. I was going to say we could try putting, make a decision and then just see how it goes and adjust as we go, none of this needs to be, set in stone completely. Well, maybe that's something to chew on, and we can talk about it more next week in the working session and move on to other agenda items. Anything else related to this that people want to just make sure folks are aware of and think about for next time?
Very briefly, in the standards working group, we discussed the fact that some projects and collab spaces need a way to share with the CPC information about future travel expectations, even if they don't have like specific numbers. For example, we know how much travel is expected for the tag very vaguely, but like well enough that's actually useful information. So it's not enough to actually make a request at this point, but it's clear that like, it's like, n number of travels and sort of like, two are going to be like, one's going to be domestic and one international, like, and for example, right, like for a whole year. And so it would be nice to know where to stick that, have this information and a process for retrieving and having groups or projects be able to share that information in advance.
Yeah, and maybe, agreed. That's probably part of the working session. I think that has been discussed before. If you work for a big company, you may get one international trip and 2 domestic ones, for example. So, but having like several months in advance to be able to forecast the budget, I think it's going to be really important.
Agreed. All right, cool.
I opened an issue about this, and we can talk about it on next Tuesday.
Great. All right, cool. Moving on. The next item here is Sarah, you opened this 2 weeks ago, elections and transparency. It's 1174. Do you want to give us the background on this?
Yeah, I really liked how we batch ran the elections this year, did them all at once. I know in the past we've kind of been like, we've done them sometimes months apart, and then it's like, oh, it's time for another election. And so I wanted to suggest doing that from now on. I thought that was great. I also did not know that the elections had concluded or who won, and I was having trouble finding that. So I wondered if we wanted to do like an announcement and start just a process behind like, okay, in July, we run elections and then we announce. So it's like predictable.
Yeah. That sounds like a good idea.
Great. And anything I can do, like, what would be the best way to help to facilitate this? Because I realize there's some work behind it. So what
maybe we
should put it on the agenda with Kylie and me. I know we do a blog, but just doing like an email distribution, I think is really important on the announcement side before a blog goes out. I know you have several issues. I guess that's the one.
Yeah, and then maybe next year I can just set a reminder for myself to remind everyone, oh, it's almost July. How many elections do we have this year? Yeah,
Ben and I started to touch on elections this morning, and we're putting it on our team agenda for Thursday. But yeah, it's something that's been on our mind as well, trying to get more organized. Yeah.
Great. Then this one could be closed. Issue can be closed as everyone agrees. Let's do this.
Yeah, and also there's some CPC documentation around when elections happen and how they happen.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about like how to get this in practice, those do need to be adjusted. And so I do think it's a really good idea to spend some time thinking about 2024 and when we want elections to happen, right? If we get a good calendar set up, then it's really easy to just, run them rather than realizing that folks have terms have expired. And then in general, I totally agree with you, like running them at once, since I was running them with Joe, was easier and would love to continue to do that, right? Staggering them just is not great.
I think it'll be a little bit easier too, since the goal is to kind of make the different positions more generic. So the directors are just directors, they're not representing different groups. We have voting members that I think the plan is to not have, a couple for this group and a couple for that group. We can just kind of have generic voting members representing, the community and the projects and whatnot. And that will make it easier to run everything at once. I feel like in the past, we split it up a little bit because we wanted to there was a reason. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was not really a conflict, but like, there was a reason to separate them, and I can't remember what the reasons were.
Probably continuity, right?
Yeah, the continuity was
Some
definitely.
folks wanted staggered event, but I think opening it up to more folks, I love that idea too. It's the way our governance was established when we sort of walked into this. People are surprised about the voting members. Regular members is cool, but we just have to make sure, even with a small number, I sometimes still have to chase people to make sure they vote. That we would just have to be really clear that our GitHub page is updated when folks become a regular member, so then they can vote and we can make sure we have quorum. But yeah, love that idea.
And I think building out like a playbook, for lack of a better term, would be great. And then especially if somebody comes on to help run them or whatever, then we just have it in place and it's not like institutional knowledge and then all this other stuff. So
would it be helpful if I suggested some updated language to have them all run together? Okay, I'll take that up as an action item.
Yeah, and I think this kind of overlaps with some of the other changes that are still lingering as well in terms of the board seats and co-chair and voting members and stuff. So it'd be great to get progress on all that stuff. That'd be really good.
I don't think the latter are lingering. I think those actually, I think Ben has updates on that now.
Yeah, so the additional the changes to the bylaws and the charter were all approved, right, in the last board meeting. So we just need to run the election for the new CPC seat. I just haven't kicked off that process yet.
Okay, great.
That's a bunch of issues we can close.
Yeah, I'm
nice.
moving them up the list right now.
I thought I commented in the right ones, but there were a lot.
No, I'm sure.
I don't even know if I were on all of them.
I'm sure you did. I'm seeing that Joe didn't catch on this, and so there's a bunch of stuff we can close. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everything is lingering, Joe.
Yeah, well, I feel like so much is lingering, but that's just my world. So I'm looking at 1055 pull request, simplify CPC board representation. 2 weeks ago, these changes were voted on and approved in the board meeting on the 18th of September. So this is a pull request, so it seems like this needs to be merged.
I think we wanted to make sure that the new board, the new bylaws had been published.
They have been.
Okay. So is that related to, I'm going to open up issue 1054, the community board seat.
I mean, that should close a bunch of issues, frankly.
Yeah.
Close them all, and then we'll open up a new one for the election. Start fresh.
Oh, well, yeah.
So let's figure this out. So open up community board seat. This is an issue 1054. Sarah opened it on April 11th. There is some proposed bylaw changes. Maybe and Ben, you have a comment on August 8th about some updates from legal. Toby says we discussed this here. So I don't know if maybe you want to put a comment in that one, Ben, saying that the bylaws are approved and we can open up an election soon and we'll close that issue.
We should I think just merging the pull request should close a bunch of things. I'll have a look. Oh, okay. I mean, Phil.
Well,
I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to prevent Ben from typing stuff.
Hands off keyboard, right?
Type ahead. No, I just think it makes more sense to actually have the pull request close issues. I mean, for tracking what happened.
Yeah,
and I assume it does.
The PR has definition. The PR has a linting issue, so we just need to fix that, and then we can merge 1055. So okay, I can try to look at this, or if somebody else wants to, you're welcome to. additionally, and this says it's bundled in 1055, is the co-chair. So that we can agree on, right? I mean, we can close this issue. 1043 co-chair for CPC.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just merge 1055. It's going to close 1043 and 1054.
Okay. All right, so I will not worry about any of those then, and look at that pull request and try to merge that, and that'll clean those other things up. Cool. We want to save 10 minutes for private stuff, so we have about 8 or 9 minutes left. So I'm going to jump ahead. Code of conduct action plan. This one is lingering, correct, Toby? This is a linger. Okay. So
I mean, like I'm actually going to push back a little to like calling anything lingering until the end of the month of October.
Okay.
And then you can.
Okay. Agreed. We'll do that. Standardize on collab spaces over working groups. This is another one that is hanging on. Needs some work still. I don't think there's any updates since early August. So if anybody wants to jump into that one too and help move that forward, that would be great. It seems that issue 1056 can be closed. JSON schema charter request to review. I'm going to close this issue. Closed. So sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around. I was a little ambitious in trying to jump ahead. So let's look at issue 1133, requirements for projects releasing internal projects to third-party contributor. What?
That's has a legal tag, right? That we were going to.
Oh, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still waiting on legal.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Nonviolent communication, strategic workplace resolution training. I think Robin, you were going to look into.
I need to reach out to the vendor and get a proposal.
Great. Enable ability to have pseudonymity, however you say that word, for easy CLA. Is this also waiting on legal? Okay. And this one, I guess, is waiting on legal too. The requirements for projects ingesting. Yep, also waiting on legal. All right, cool.
Wait, hang on, just before we move on. So we just talked about like 3 things that are waiting for legal. Are these actually in legal's queue? Like, is Andy like actively working on this, or are we waiting to give these to Andy?
Well, Andy's been on vacation, so you and I probably need to connect because some of them I think are and some of them aren't.
Okay.
And some were in the middle of it before he went. So, and then of course, then I was just doing a loop around the world too. So
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just a little loop.
Yeah.
Just a little loop.
I believe the assumption is that the CPC marks those as waiting on legal, and assumes that Yul and the staff are gonna
We
do
drive
that connection.
Correct. Yeah.
But I mean, Ben has a point that we haven't been super explicit about this, and we just tag the thing and then kind of like wash our hands from it. And so maybe we should be a little more explicit.
No, I usually take those up with legal. It's just this month was very
okay. So
unusual.
if it's just like
I could create like a GitHub action that would, when you apply that label, it sends it off. And
can it bonk me in the head to remind me?
Yeah, it's like we need more automation in this repository. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I see Iggy's like putting 2 thumbs up.
I know, I was thinking the same.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yep. Apologies again on that one.
No worries at all. It was a fun coding exercise.
Well, you can code a Nerf gun to hit Robin on the head.
Yes, exactly.
All right, moving on. The last issue here is create some documentation web page to describe the collaboration model of OpenJS projects. I see, Robin, you commented that you and Mateo will have a working draft. Kylie's smoothing it out, and then we'll have something.
We're close. Yep.
Great, excellent. Cool. So that's it for the agenda, and we've already decided that we will work on the travel fund form, as well as the information for any budget requests. So I think with that, we can call the meeting a wrap and jump into private session. Cool.